in California parks. Oh, let me, we will then talk about what's happening with art in state parks. We will do a deep dive on the 2024 Local Parks Grant Program. We will look at important dates for you to mark in your calendars. We will review the 2024 grant application together, and we'll talk about what's available in our resource hub. And then we will have 15 minutes for a Q&A at the very end for you all to participate in. So next slide, please. So I will start off the introductions for our Arts and Parks team. This is just a few of our members. This is who is joining the call today. I will start and then we'll end off with Adrian. So my name is Sarah Scheidemann. Hello, everyone. I am the Arts and California Parks Program Manager for Parks California, which means I will be managing the Local Parks Grant Program. And I will pass it to Miriam.
Good morning, everyone. Marian Solis Coronel, Director of Community Engagement for Parks California. And I'm super thrilled to be here with you today. In my role, I get to oversee programs that are creating a sense of belonging and place. And Art in California Parks is certainly one that we believe fits that. So thank you for joining us today.
I can jump in. Hi, everyone. Emily Henry with Parks California. I'm an associate program manager. Big part of my role is supporting our grant making programs at Parks California, and super excited to be sharing this new opportunity with you all. And Isby, why don't you jump in next?
Great. My name is Isby Fleischman, and I'm a senior associate with PlaceWorks. PlaceWorks is State Parks' on-call consultant, and we're helping with multiple projects, but I am helping manage the overall program development and art and state parks work for Arts in California Parks. And I will pass it to Adrian.
Good morning, all. Adrian Contreras. I am the Assistant Deputy Director of Park Operations here at California State Parks.
And good morning, I'm Ann Bound Crawford. I'm a consultant with PlaceWorks and to the California Parks program, and I hope many of you that I saw yesterday are on the webinar today.
Okay, so we can go to the next slide, and Adrian will introduce Arts in California Parks and share with us all about the program.
Thank you, Sarah. So this is a very unique program that I am so excited about. As someone that's been with the Department of Parks and Recreation now a little north of 20 years, I've never been able to participate in something like this here at State Parks. It's two things that are very near and dear to me: the outdoor spaces that we have the pleasure of participating in their protection and preservation of, along with my love of arts. So to be able to take both of these two incredible things and blend them into this program is pretty incredible. So the Arts in California Parks program gives us a unique opportunity to blend arts with parks and make California parks vibrant canvases of their own, echoing creativity of diverse communities, along with the timeless beauty of nature and the importance of our cultural heritage. And really beyond mere aesthetics, the relationship between arts and parks holds profound significance for our well-being and our social fabric. Studies show that spending time in nature and engaging with art can reduce stress, boost creativity, and improve mental and physical health. Parks are also very important social gathering points where people of all backgrounds come together, share stories, celebrate their diverse cultural heritage, and foster long-lasting connections. So the opportunity that's presented through this is really something pretty special, and I'm happy to have you all here to learn more about the program and what we are trying to do with this Arts in California Parks program. So the mission of the program aims to strengthen ties among individuals, communities, and the state's natural environment. We support California Native American tribes, artists, and communities in crafting artwork that sheds light onto our collective history and current realities while fostering a reimagining of our potential. Additionally, we establish art installations and programs in both state and local parks that'll serve as catalysts for sustainable community connections while promoting health, enriching well-being. Our vision for California's parks, both state and local, is to become more inclusive and compelling while offering increased capacity to nourish, educate, and inspire individuals and communities alike. And the vision for the program is to really bring California state and local parks to be more relevant and engaging for all Californians, so we can have a greater capacity to nourish, educate, and inspire individuals and communities. Next slide, please. All right, so regarding the goals of the program, so first we aim to be welcome and welcoming by drawing California's diverse populations into parks through culturally reflective projects and programs. Secondly, we seek to empower individuals by providing mentorship and employment opportunities that broaden our creative pathways. Third, we strive to heal by harnessing the healing potential of arts and parks to enhance physical, mental, and emotional well-being for individuals and communities. Fourth, we endeavor to connect people by creating contemporary experiences that foster emotional ties to state and local parks, intertwining culture and place while uniting communities. And finally, we seek to inspire visitors by igniting a sense of creativity and exploration, celebrating California's rich tribal and cultural heritage and honoring the cultural significance of park lands. And I'll turn it over to discuss.
All right. Excellent. Well, I just want to give you an overview of how the program is coming together. And, at the heart of the program, we have three main program partners: California State Parks, Parks California, you'll be hearing a lot from today, and then the California Arts Council, which I believe we have many people on the call today representing the California Arts Council. So these three partners are guiding the overall development of the program, along with a 15-person advisory committee that you can read more about on the website. If you're here today, I think you already found the website, but please continue to return. And so this is one overall program, but there are two different avenues through which funding is dispersed, and that is the Art and State Parks programs, where funding is distributed for projects within state parks boundaries. And then we have the local parks grant programs, which we're here to focus on today and to learn about how grant programs for projects in our local parks. And it is such a thrill to see everyone chiming in here and see all the different places throughout California and different types of activities represented. So this is absolutely thrilling to imagine the project expanding out, really reaching the whole state. Go to the next slide. So just to give you some context, so these two components, Arts and State Parks and Local Parks Grant Program, you can see Arts and State Parks in blue and Local Grants Program in orange. Both will have 3 funding cycles. For Arts and State Parks, that first funding cycle is round 1. We're referring to this as the pilot projects because they're intended to inform all the other projects for both the state and local programs. And those projects were selected in 2023, last summer, and they are underway. So we'll be sharing some more about those, and they're on the website. And there'll be 2 more funding cycles with projects selected this summer and then in the summer of 2025. The local grants program will also have 3 funding cycles, just 1 year out. So the first one is this year, and then there'll be 2 more to come. And the advisory committee is guiding the development of the overall program and all these components. But I just want to make sure everyone's clear that they are not, the advisory committee will not be selecting projects or serving in that role. Go to the next slide. All right, going a little bit deeper into the art and state parks piece. There's already a lot of art happening in state parks. We did an inventory in 2023, and we're able to kind of assess what is already happening or what's been happening in recent years. For those of you who don't know, there are 280 state parks that you can visit throughout the state. These are organized into 21 districts. The polygons you see here on the map, each one of those represents one of the state parks districts. And you can see that some of them are colored in a darker shade than others. The darker shade that these districts are colored in, the more art activities they have happening now or have had in the recent past. So you can see it's not quite equal. There's some areas of the state where we are lacking that opportunity to bring art and parks together. And it varies in part just due to the investment, or the investment's going to vary in part just due to the resources that different parks and districts have and communities, as well as the partnerships and relationships. So through the Arts and State Parks programs, we're really working to try to build capacity of state park staff and also creative partners to be developing, envisioning, and implementing these art and parks projects. So right now there are the pilot projects underway. That's cultural events, artists in residence programs, installations, a whole gamut. And there's a lot that you can be participating in and learning about coming up. Let's go to the next slide. This is just a glimpse of some of the pilot projects. You can learn more on the www.artsinCaliforniaparks.com. And there are about 25 projects total, including about almost nearly 10. We might get up to 10 poetry and parks events this year. And yeah, on the website, you can find events that are near you. You can search by location or by project type. But some very exciting things that have been happening already. This was a pilot project in the fall in Los Angeles State Historic Park called Procession, with the main partner was Bexley. Go to the next slide. And more relevant and exciting to everyone right now, or equally relevant, let's say, is the round 2. So we are in the process this spring of working with state park staff to define what the projects will look like for round 2. The way that works is that there's a call for projects that will be released to state park staff, and state park staff will be the ones to propose projects. These projects will be selected, reviewed and selected by June. And what to keep an eye out for is that calls for artists that follow. So the projects, for the most part, the projects proposed by state park staff will not yet identify creative partners. And what will happen is once those projects are selected, you'll start seeing calls for artists and partners as soon as this summer and then going into the fall. And those will be on the website, and we'll try to do our best to get the word out, but you'll definitely be hearing from us on those. And there'll be both park specific projects, so projects happening in one park, as well as projects where we're looking for performances or exhibits and other opportunities that would touch multiple parks throughout the state. So we're super excited. Keep your eyes open for these opportunities coming up in the summer. And I'm going to pass it on to Sarah, I believe, right? Or Marian.
I'll take it from here, Isby. Thank you so much. Thanks for that overview of what is happening on the state park track. Before we go into the local grants program, I do want to share a little bit about Parks California, because we're a newer organization, and I thought it would be helpful for you all to know who we are and our role in this initiative. So as an organization, we're super thrilled to be part of this initiative as the statewide statutory partner to California State Parks. We're here to strengthen parks and inspire all to experience the wonders of these extraordinary places. As a partner to California State Parks, we work jointly with the department to really bridge partnerships across sectors. We're uniquely positioned to innovate approaches and partnerships, take a statewide approach to the initiatives and the work that we're doing. We're also here to accelerate investments to ensure that programs like Art in California Parks can inspire everyone to experience and care for a healthy and thriving park system forever. So that's a little bit about who we are. Now, I know many of you are interested about this new grant program, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah to share a little bit more about what has been published on the website and also take us into a Q&A. Sarah, take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Marian. Parks California is very proud to be managing the local parks grant program. And I just want to go over with you all some of the grant program and what we aim to do here. So the local parks grant program is aiming to reflect and better connect the public with cultural heritage of the regions. We're looking to increase investments in art experiences in often overlooked communities, artists, and local parks. We're looking to drive authentic community engagement, support a diverse set of art mediums, And we are also aiming to bridge the local and state parks, Art in California Parks programs for a greater community impact. You can go to the next slide. So what is the definition of a local park and what are the eligible projects? Probably many of you are asking. So the eligible projects, they must be open to the general public, and a local park is land that is owned or managed by a local city, county, or park or community service district, land trust, regional park or open space district, nonprofit organization or foundation, or any other entity other than federal and state agencies. And indoor and outdoor facilities may be considered. You can go to the next slide. So for the Local Parks Grant Program, the 2024-2025 grant cycles, we have 2 grant tracks that are available for applicants. We have the Planning and Development grant track and the Implementation. For the Planning and Development grant track, the objective here is to support the early stages of project development with a focus on building partnerships, artist selection, and developing project plans. The Planning and Development grant track is an eight-month grant cycle, and the grant period is from October 2024 to May 2025. The Implementation grant track is here to support the execution of community engagement and art and culture programs with well-defined partnerships. The Implementation grant track is a 12-month grant cycle, and the grant period is from October 2024 to September 2025. And for the Local Parks Grant Program, there is $8 million available to distribute in grants over the next 3 years in the grant cycles. The grant cycles are going to happen in 2024, 2025, and 2026. Being the first year and knowing that we have this $8 million available over the next 3 years for the Planning and Development grant track, we're anticipating awarding $250,000 in grant awards. And for the Implementation grant track, we're anticipating awarding $2.5 million in grant awards. And while we anticipate awarding these funds, we recommend that the minimum grant requests be no less than $15,000. And we also recommend that applicants submit a proposal that meets their needs. Next slide, please. So when applying, we have our minimum requirements, and you'll see across the board here that there's similar requirements for the Planning and Development track as well as Implementation. The blue column there is for Planning and Development. The yellow there is for the Implementation. Both have minimum requirements that the application must be completed by a 501c3 nonprofit organization, California Native American Tribes, Native 7871 organizations, foundations, land trusts, and/or local government agencies such as city, county, and regional. You must facilitate a partnership within your community, and projects must bring art and nature together as a catalyst for community connection in local parks. Next slide. As mentioned, there is a partnership requirement, and with this requirement, for when applying, you must provide evidence or confirmation that your organization has received approval from relevant stakeholders for your proposed activity before applying. This could look like an email or a signed letter from a park manager or nonprofit organization. Okay. For the program criteria, again, you will see that we have Planning and Development and Implementation, and there's crossover between both of them. So I will touch on just a few here. We must demonstrate alignment with the goals of arts in California parks, explore artwork and/or art and culture programming that offers perspective on our past and present, inclusive community engagement strategies. Art and culture projects to be explored must be free of cost and inclusive for all. Projects must contribute to community connection, health, well-being, and/or placemaking. And for the Planning and Development grant track, we are looking, a criteria is to have a goal of establishing a clear project plan that is poised for the Implementation grant track. Next slide. Preferences, again, are similar across both grant tracks. We have a preference for to provide partnerships with meaningful, relevant, and/or multiple experiences, integrate environmental sustainability and practices of stewardship, focus on priority regions, and for the implementation grant track, we have a preference for proposals that include a matching grant component. Next track, or next slide. Some important dates for you all to mark down in your calendars. On June 14th at 5 p.m., that's when grant proposals are going to be due. Every Wednesday, starting next week, from April 24th to May 29th, from 2 to 3 p.m., we will have community office hours. This is where you are welcome to come in, speak with us, ask any questions. We will be here to assist you. In September 2024, that's when we will announce our grant fundings. And in October 2024 is when grant agreements will be due. So we'll now head into the grant application, and I will pass it to Emily Henry.
Thanks, Sarah. So we'll be highlighting specific aspects of the grant application, not diving into every single question, but ones we think may just need some additional clarity in this presentation. So first I'll start and say all of our application process is online. You should be able to access it both from Parks California's website as well as the Art in California Parks website. Both will lead you to there. But you can go ahead to the next slide, Marian. So I'll be going over each aspect of the application section by section. And we'll be highlighting the ones that are in blue. So I'll talk a little bit about those as we go through this. So first one, we have our first section is the art project concept. The first question you'll likely see in the application is tell us your pitch. This is where you can really give us a sense of what is your program and what is your proposal all about. So a brief summary, also highlighting its significance, relevance, and artistic mediums. So think of it as an executive summary, as well as just a brief summary of your whole proposal. The next specific question I'll highlight is what specific community needs or issues does your project aim to address in making your art or culture program possible? So like Sarah said, there's a community engagement aspect to this, there's a partnership aspect to this. Something we do or want with this program is that there's relevancy too for the community you're looking to have participate in this programming. So this question really gives you an opportunity to say, what types of community need is there? How will this fit into that? And let you articulate that relevancy portion for the proposed audience that you're looking to connect with. Thank you. The next section I'll highlight really briefly is our application information. So here we have our proposed project location. Sarah earlier in the presentation noted our definition of local parks. Within our proposed project location for both applications, and you'll see as I go through this, some of these are marked both, so both for implementation and planning and development. And then when they are for one specific track, I'll call that out as I'm talking about it. So for proposed project location, whether it's planning, development, or implementation, we ask that you input the very specific park site or site that fits within that local park definition that you're proposing for these activities to take place. Then under location type, you'll be able to select who's the land manager for this or who's the landowner for this. For us to get a better sense, is it a local city park? Is it a county park? Is it owned by a foundation, a nonprofit, a land trust? There are more options that I'm listing right now, but both of these are just giving you the opportunity to have us truly understand very specifically where will this programming be taking place. Feel free to go to the next slide. Thank you. So the next section we'll talk about is our community engagement section, specifically our artists and art-based organization selection process. So this is a question prompt for both planning and development and for implementation, but want to recognize for planning and development, this might not be figured out yet. So what we're really looking for here for implementation is what is it that you are using as your framework to select an artist or an art-based organization for your proposed programming? How did you go about it? How does it align with the program goals? How does it align with the other initiatives this program is nested under? And then for planning and development, if you have someone already selected, and for implementation too, if you have someone already selected for this programming, you can detail how you went about selecting that, knowing that all of you as applicants will come to this program Some of you may be already knowing the exact artist or art-based organization you want to work with, and some of you may be having an open call of sorts. So giving us a sense of how you're going to choose that or how you did already choose them. For planning and development, if that's not developed yet, if that's something you're looking to explore through this grant funding, we'll just ask you to give us a sense of, how will this project support the development of a process that will allow you to select an artist or an art-based organization that is in line with the program goals and in line with this grant program. The next section I'll talk about is our communication and documentation strategy. For communication, what we're looking to get a sense of here is, again, going back to what I was talking about of community engagement, relevancy for the community that you're looking to provide these experiences to. What is your strategy for that proposed audience? How do you have strategies potentially build out, or with planning and development, how will you build those out that create a relevancy perspective and have, a plan that most resonates with the community you're looking to serve? And then for documenting your work, we're looking for some information on how exactly will you document your community engagement approach? How exactly will you document the ideation for the art outcome or for the art project, and of what actually takes place, giving us a better sense of what kind of things will you be looking to produce out of these programs. Great. So there are two things I'll highlight here. I'll start at the bottom because the next one will lead into the next phase. You'll see then the very end of the application, and we just want to make this clear, as an organization whose a primary program is grant making, we always try to solicit feedback from our applicants. So we do have a question at the end of our application that asks for proposal time and feedback. So if there's anything you have about letting us know how long it took you to put together a proposal, that won't be considered in any of the weight of funding applications, but we'll just get us a better sense of how onerous is this for you and how can we adapt potentially in the future to make an application process that fits the needs of all of you that we're looking to fund. Now I'll jump back up to the top, final project plan. This is specific to our planning and development grant track. What we're looking for here is that what we're looking to fund for planning and development, we really want to be a successful project that could in the future apply for implementation. Marian, could you go to the next slide? Thanks. So just letting you know that what something we'll be asking for if funded under planning and development is a final project plan. And like I said, the intent of this is to really position your organization well to be able to apply for that future implementation round. And the hope is that having these concrete details worked out will help you be really well positioned for that future application. So these are the aspects that we'll look for out of a final project plan. There is a template, or this is also listed on our resource hub, but it'll include things as what is your objectives of your future project? What type of budget would you need? How is their alignment with our goals? What are the outcomes and success metrics you're looking to measure? Who are your partners? And what exactly or how exactly you're going to achieve it over a course of time? And what are your main pieces and milestones to do so? Thank you. Now I'll cover the attachment section. There are a couple of attachments, well, maybe not a couple, maybe a little bit more, but they will depend upon what type of organization you're applying for. So know that what attachments appear will make sense for whatever organization you have as your lead applicant. For all applicants, I'm going to cover 4 of the attachments that we're looking for, or 3. So the first one, to give us a sense of what type of work you've done in this space before, we're asking for you to share 2 examples of prior relevant art projects or art and culture programs. So whatever that looks like for you, how you've engaged in this space before, give us an example or give us a sense of, something that we can look at and see how has this worked out for you in the past. For implementation grants only, or grant proposals only, we're also asking for if you have art project designs and renderings of what you're looking to implement. Again, this might look different depending on where you are with that implementation, but know that is something within the attachments, just to give you all a heads up. One thing I also want to note for our attachments is that our grant system will require you submit the attachments as a single file. So if you have multiple things you're looking to include as an attachment, just sync them all up into one PDF and you'll be able to submit there. We also have a text box option there too. So if you have a link like a Google Drive, or if your examples, your art renderings exist somewhere else, you can drop a link for us to be able to get through there too. And just make sure that you can access it as a guest. We'll let you know if you can't as we go through our application or review. The next two I want to cover are specific to our budget. We do have some examples that Sarah will highlight later, but just want to say for our budget request, we do have a specific template that is available on our resource hub and linked within directly in our application. And we've also developed an example too, so you can see what are we looking for in terms of a detailed budget request. In addition to a specific budget template or budget request, we're also asking for a budget narrative. So that is a Word doc or a PDF that gives us a bit more information and justification for the specific items you're requesting as expenses in your budget proposal. Keep going. So continuing about budget, you may be wondering, what can this grant program fund? So we have some examples here, but as you can see with both of these are examples, but they're not limited to. So for planning and development, some expenses that we are anticipating seeing in those budget requests are workshops, community engagement activities, staff time, any planning or materials, and other forms of, other things that might help support an equitable art selection practice or helping you build that. For implementation, knowing that this is to support the actual implementation of these projects, some examples of things we're anticipating seeing are actual event costs, community activities, again, artist fees, staff times, fees associated with installations, exhibitions, rentals, permits, maintenance costs during the cost of the grant period. So just know this is an example. If you have questions as to what might fit, reach out to us, and I think we'll talk at the end of how you can get in touch with us. But feel free to go to the next slide, Marian. So now that I've talked about examples of eligible costs, what are ineligible costs? So across both of the programs, ineligible costs we have identified are fundraising, grant writing, lobbying and advocacy, and costs outside of the performance period and costs associated with the approved grant scope. So we did on the previous slide, I talked about there might be maintenance costs for the implementation track specific. Those are eligible specific to the actual performance period of the grant, not beyond. And then our indirect cost policy, we only have an indirect cost policy limit for colleges, universities, and government agencies. So that can be any sort of public government agency. And we will cap those indirect costs up to 15%. For nonprofit organizations, we don't have a fixed minimum or maximum for indirect costs. So like Sarah said earlier, when we talked about the two tracks and how much money we have or how much grant funding we have to give out during the whole course of this grant program for the next 3 years, we recognize indirect costs look different, and you can apply for the true cost of your program. So whatever that truly looks like to you for your organization as indirect costs, feel free to do that. Feel free to request that. If we have questions about it, we'll go back to you. And now I think I'm handing it back to Sarah to talk about our resource hub.
Yes, thank you. You can go to the next slide. Our resource hub is located on our website. We have a beautiful website that hopefully many of you have already visited, and that's how you're here with us today. On our website, you can find information about everything that we've spoken to today, the local parks grant track, the state parks program. You can explore projects that have happened that will be coming up. This is also where you can find news and updates on the program and the resource hub. On the right-hand side of the screen, you could see what it'll look like when you click on one of the tabs, and it'll come up with a page with more information on that particular program. And our website is artsandcaliforniaparks.org. So next slide. Also featured on our website is the artist directory, and this is really amazing. This is a place where this is a statewide artist directory, and it's really for any type of artist that's interested in working with the parks can register on the artist directory. This could be a place where a park manager may have a concept and is looking for an artist and could use this as a resource. We really encourage everyone to submit themselves on to the artist directory. Okay, Next slide. The resource hub, we have a resource hub for the local state parks for the local parks and for the state parks. We'll just be covering the local parks resource hub today. We have quite a few resources on there, which is, we have a checklist before you start, so that way you can have everything in order. We will have FAQs that will be updated. Along the way, there's plenty listed at the moment as well, so please feel free to familiarize yourself. We have budget templates for use, budget narrative, there's online resources and links, and we have the planning and development final plan template as well. And this is also where you could apply for the grant. There's, as you can see in the screenshot here, there's an apply now button, and that's where you can find the grant applications, and you'll be able to view the applications as a PDF prior to just going in and filling it out. So that way you could print it out and have it ready as you're going along. So as mentioned, we have our budget templates. We have templates for both the planning and development grant track as well as the implementation. When you click on the link, you will download an Excel file. And within this, there are two tabs. One is an example filled out sample budget that can show you an example of what your budget might look like. The other one is a blank one where you can fill in and it'll calculate for you. And you're welcome to use these as a resource for when you are applying. Okay. The budget narrative is part of our, as Emily touched upon, our application requirement, and the budget narrative should explain in a clear and concise manner the costs in each budget category. We have, as you can see in this screenshot, an example of what the budget narrative should look like and that you could use as a reference. When you click on that link, it'll download in a PDF format for you. Slide. We also have on our website lots of online resources for you. When you go into the online resource and helpful links slide, you can learn much more about the Outdoors for All initiative, Outdoor Access for All program, re-examining our past initiative. We also encourage everyone to take our survey. You can learn more about the pilot projects in our California state parks. And this is also a link to the directory again. We have also included links for you to become more familiar with community engagement resources. Also, when building out this program, if you're looking to find how to determine artist fees, we have links here to help you out to make sure that our artists are paid. And we have ADA compliance information, cultural sensitivity and inclusivity resources. And we also have mobile app content resources for you all. Oh, and now we are at maybe the funnest part of this program is our Q&A section. And we are excited to hear from you all and see what questions you may have, and hopefully we can be of help. So I will let, I think Emily is starting off the Q&A.
Yes, I'll jump in. And thanks everyone for using the Q&A function. I'm seeing some questions also in the chat box. We'll try and toggle between both, but if you don't mind just copy and pasting your question in the chat box into the Q&A, that'll make it a little bit easier to see if we've answered it. So first, I am going to ask Sarah to respond to a question from Jenna, which is asking, can you expand more on the planning and development track versus the implementation track and what the differences between the two are? There's other questions similar to that too, of how do you know which one you should apply for?
Sure. So for the planning and development grant track, this is released to support the early stages of a project development. So this is if you have a concept, but you're not exactly ready to produce a program. So let's say the implementation grant track is more for like shovel-ready projects. The planning and development grant track is where you need to still make connections with either the local park management or a local nonprofit to get your project started. So this is really focused on building the partnerships and developing this program together in order to get you really set up and ready to go for the implementation grant track within the next cycle. This could also mean if you're still working on your artist selection process and developing your project plans. The implementation grant track is really, as I kind of mentioned, more for the shovel-ready projects. This is where you already have well-defined partnerships that are ready to go.
Thanks, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I'll hand it over to Marian. If you could, we've got a couple of questions about, we've recognized that the minimum for grant requests is 15,000. Is there a maximum for the grant request?
Such a great question. There's a few things that I'll share. It is our first year of launching this program, so I will say that just even entering this phase, we have an anticipated number of applicants that we think we'll get, but we won't know until June 14th at 5 p.m. how many we'll actually receive. So not knowing how many applications we have, what we do know is we have $8 million for this grant program that will go out the door to support communities across the state for both implementation and planning and development. Knowing that we have 3 years of funding, we have anticipated numbers, right? We're doing the math of 3 years, 3 grant cycles. Knowing that this will require a partnership, we do have that minimum threshold. For that cap, that's a little bit harder because we know that there's the demand and the need will vary by city, by partnership, but even by the type of art medium and community engagement that is happening for the artist selection and the location. So just to look at 3 years of funding, $8 million, we're kind of just breaking up the funding available across the 3 years. We anticipate numbers to really vary based on those elements. Maybe some of them will come in at 25,000. Others might come in significantly higher. What we do recommend is recognizing that we have $8 million to go out the door. We have 3 grant cycles. We're asking you to look at that and also look at what you're looking to do locally and submit a proposal that fits within the overall grant program. I know that's super vague. I know that's very high level, but we're open. We're open to smaller requests. We're also open to bigger opportunities that can come to community to really foster that love and that magic of art in parks. I'll invite my friends here if anybody wants to add anything more to that.
Yeah, I would just jump in to say, like Marian said, it's really kind of hard to define what that upper threshold may be. We've got 3 years that we want to see as we roll this out, what we receive in terms of proposals. So ask for what your needs are that tie to your project. And as we move further downstream, we'll get a better sense of what's available year over year. But at this point, I would say ask for what you need for your particular art project, and then let us kind of wade through those proposals.
Thank you, Adrian.
Great, thanks. Sarah, would you mind jumping in again and just repeating how much funding we are anticipating awarding in this first round? I see a couple questions related to that.
Sure. So again, we have 8 million available over the next 3 years. So 2024, 2025, 2026. For the planning and development grant track, we anticipate awarding 250,000 in grant awards. For the implementation grant track, we anticipate awarding 2.5 million in grant awards. And yeah, that'll be for the first year. And we are flexible as we've mentioned too. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, sorry to keep this on you. Would you also mind talking again about any match requirement that we have within this grant program?
Sure. There aren't necessarily match requirements, but it is a preference that we have for the implementation grant track.
Great, thank you. Let's see, where do I want to jump to next? There are some questions on if you can apply for both planning and development and for implementation. I'm not sure who wants to take that one, but I'll pose it to this group.
So you can only apply for one per grant cycle. However, we really highly encourage the planning and development applicants to apply for the planning and development with the notion that you'd be applying for the implementation grant in the next cycle. And we've set up the program in a way that it's set up for planning and development to apply for the implementation in the next year. So if you apply for planning and development in 2024, you'll be able to apply based on the schedule to the implementation grant in 2025.
Thank you. Let's see, which one do I want to jump to? Trying to knock some of these out or mark them as complete as we're going to. There are a couple of questions, I think you've covered it, but just to make it clear too, of do you have to apply for planning and development to be eligible for implementation? And then similarly, will those that complete planning and development be prioritized for implementation funding in the future?
So you don't have to apply for planning and development grant track if you feel like you already have an established partnership and you have a project that is ready to go for implementation. And for those that for our planning and development that will apply for implementation, that is a preference that we'd like to see and support along the process.
Thank you. And then there's a couple of questions too around, can programming be proposed to take place in multiple park sites or multiple sites that fit within that local park's definition? And then to clarify beyond that, what if they want to propose programming both in a local park that fits that definition and in a state park? How would they navigate that? Who wants to jump in?
Marion, do you want to?
Go ahead. Take it.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So for the question was, if they'd like to have their
Multiple sites.
multiple, yeah. So that is a preference, having multiple, let's say, program and project activations in throughout the parks. And then, I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question is if they have a program that they want to take place into two different park sites, one is a local city park and one is an adjacent state park. Could they apply for a state park one or to cover funding for that state park project through the local parks grant program?
Oh, that is a good question. Marion, do you think?
Yeah. And Isby, feel free to jump in to talk about the state one. The one for local parks, it is intended to support local parks, but as a whole, it is a local in-state park program. What I recommend for this particular person that submitted the proposal, that submitted the question, to join us for maybe tech support or community office hours to learn a little bit more about what you're thinking of developing, and then we can kind of guide the best direction.
And I would just add that if you're not already connected with someone from the state park that you're thinking of, we can help connect you, and definitely it's a good time to reach out. And that state park can also be considering that as they develop program ideas for the next, for this coming round of projects as well. We're definitely really excited about having projects that do connect local and state parks. And, we know that for most people, they are all experienced as our California parks. So yeah, we definitely want to accommodate that and figure out how to support those efforts.
Mm-hmm.
There were some questions about the state parks, art and state parks, and I just really want to emphasize that most of what you heard today really is about the local parks program, and that is where there are deadlines that are relevant to most of you here. For the state parks track, it is it is fine to reach out to state parks or reach out to me or others, and we can connect you, but the calls for artists and creative partners will not be till this summer or fall. So that'll be after your proposal submitted for the local parks grant, there will be other opportunities coming.
Sarah, Marian, I'll pivot this question to you. Some questions around open access to the public. So some park sites or some applicants are collaborating or manage park sites that have an entrance fee. Would that make it not free and open to the public and therefore not eligible? What do you think?
You want to take this one, Sarah?
Sure. Let's see. So oh, I'm so sorry. So one of the criterias is that the project to be explored must be free of cost and inclusive for all. And this is including economic and physical accessibility.
Yeah, what we have seen too in other instances is, for example, in the pilot phase for state parks have a parking fee, right? But admission is free. So in a place where typically there might be a fee associated because of an admission, what we have seen too, sometimes folks have community days or community events that then open up those venues in that place so that that experience becomes much more accessible to the general public. So if typically the place has an admission fee, what we would be looking for is, how are you looking to expand that to ensure that the cost is not a barrier to communities to experience those opportunities. And it might be in your community engagement approach too. So that would be a way to share with us, one, typically how communities see that place typically, and then through this project, how it is expanding access.
Great, thank you. Sarah, would you mind repeating again? Sorry, I think some people just requesting clarification again on the planned disbursement of funds for the first year of local parks.
In terms of the grant cycle, so for the planning and development grants, those are 8-month grant cycles, and the grant period is from October 2024 to May 2025. For the implementation, this is a 12-month grant cycle, and the grant period is from October 2024 to September 2025.
Thanks. Could you state again how much we plan to give out in grant funds in this first year? Again, knowing that's flexible.
Sure. Knowing that it's flexible, for the planning and development grant track, we anticipate awarding $250,000 in grant awards. For the implementation grant track, we're anticipating awarding $2.5 million in grant awards.
Thank you. And then there's a question for you again, Sarah. Is there a requirement or a specific date by which implementation projects need to start by within that grant period, or can it happen anytime within the grant period?
So it could happen anytime within the grant period.
Great. There's some questions about connecting projects to other other public or private funding sources that they have, and if that's allowed. Just know, yes, absolutely. There's nothing that we have within this program that says other funding sources you may receive are not eligible to be leveraged for this. So just know that can be viewed as a match or just the leverage of other sorts of what you have already to support programming like this. So know that you can do that. Just looking. Lots of match requirement questions, which I think we've talked about. There's some questions about who the applicant can be or who the lead applicant can be. Sarah, if you want to cover that again. So there's some questions saying, does it have to be a park manager or a land manager that applies? If you want to re-articulate kind of who an applicant can be.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the completed applications must be submitted by 501c3 nonprofit organization, fiscally sponsored organizations, California Native American tribes, Native 7871 organizations, foundations, land trusts, and or local government agencies that are city, county, and regional.
Thank you. And then I think just given we're in time, maybe we'll do one or two more. There are some questions around if we have multiple project ideas that you want to propose for implementation. Will multiple applications be considered, or are applicants limited to one application per organization?
So at this time, it is one application per organization, but however, as a reminder, there are 3 grant cycles that will be happening in 2024, 2025, and 2026.
Perfect. There's a question as if there's a minimum organizational budget requirement. Can a brand new small organization apply for planning and development? Yes, we don't have a minimum in terms of budget that you must have as an organization to be eligible. You can be fiscally sponsored. You can be a new nonprofit that previously was fiscally sponsored. We really look at the quality of the programming you're looking to propose rather than say how much programming you've ever done as an organization and how long you've been around. Let's see. I think that might be all the time we have for questions. I know that there's a lot of questions still asked in here, and a lot of them seem to be project specific too. So just know, like Sarah said, starting next week, we'll have office hours that are an hour long where you can come and you can ask us these questions again. We'll try and update our FAQs with some of the questions that came up within this Q&A portion and throughout the presentation, but we're available every week starting next week for an hour. So drop into those. You can ask us questions specific to your program if you're trying to figure out, this is where I'm at. Do I fit more planning and development or implementation? We're there to help you answer those questions. So please, please, please come and chat with us, and we'll be there for you. So we're right at 10. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything else right at the end, but thank you all so much.
And you can sign up to the community office hours by going on the website and the resource hub to our Calendly link, and make sure to reserve your spot. Also, and we really look forward to connecting with you all very soon. Thank you so much.